Welcome back to the Scale with Clarity podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Cunninger. Today's episode is for anyone who's thinking, I don't hate my job, but I'm not sure this is my forever. My guest is Meg Langland. Meg spent over 20 years in higher education as the director of a career center, helping students figure out who they are and where they're headed. And in 2020, she made a shift of her own, taking the parts of her work she loved most and building a business around strengths coaching, communication, and connection. In this conversation, we talk about how to spot the threads in your career that actually energize you, how to think about pricing your skills for the first time, and why networking isn't about selling, it's about relationships. If you're curious about what else might be possible with the experience you already have, this one's for you. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Meg, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being on here.
I'm honored to be here.
Oh, I love doing that. This is why I love doing this. So we were introduced through our mutual, actually, Taylor, I was just saying she's going to send you. So our virtual assistant who works with both of us, who is just so lovely.
Yes.
But she introduced us. And so the first time I got to meet you, I got to hear your story. And that's why I love doing this podcast, because I just get to meet others that are doing fun, amazing, awesome things and learn from everyone's story. So I'm excited to have you on and share your story.
Thank you.
So to start, I know you used to be in higher education. You are no longer anymore, or you're doing something a little bit different. So can you just introduce yourself and just kind of talk about where you were before and what your business is now?
Sure. Well, I was director of a career center for 22 years. It was a great job. It was a small college. I really got to know the students well. I
Yeah.
enjoyed helping them from everything from resumes to finding jobs, internships. In the process of doing that, I also led workshops on Gallup Strengths. I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach. So our campus at that time was a Gallup Strengths campus. It is no
Yeah.
longer. But I enjoyed leading workshops for the students for all the incoming first year students. And then also I led etiquette dinners and sessions on networking. So when
I
I
love that.
left the college, I really wanted to do something with my interests that I had and help the community. And around that time, it was 2020 when I left.
Mid-COVID then.
Yes, right.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
didn't have to go through all of that. It was starting when I left, and it was the right time to scoot out of there and start my own business. So I
Yeah.
basically looked at what I really liked out of my job and I put it in a bouquet and said, hey, the community needs this. There was also a lot of, and still I think it's intensified right now, divisiveness,
Yeah.
a lot of division in our country. And the kinds of things that I enjoyed leading sessions on were all communication builders, were all positive
Mm.
things. So that I thought, our community needs this more than ever.
Ugh,
And so I just
man,
developed my own programming for it.
I love that. I want to dig in. There's many places I want to dig in because I know you kind of at the surface level talked about what you did and where you went, but that is a huge change. And a lot of people I talk to, like there is a mindset shift. There is working for yourself versus working for others. So can
Mhm.
we dig in a little bit at each of those points? So when you were still in at the career center in higher education, what can you talk about the feelings leading up to leaving? Was there fear? Was there excitement about going and doing something else? Like what was going on for you at that point amidst COVID, which
Mhm.
we can all assume there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, one thing was that I encountered a lot of conceptions that were not correct about what I was going to do. Everybody assumed I was just going to leave and retire.
Mhm.
And I hadn't planned on doing that. I wanted to do something. So you battle against that. People
Yeah.
think preconceptions, oh, you're just going to, enjoy your hobbies, which I have several,
Yeah.
but I wasn't going to do that. I
Had
wanted
you
to.
always I'm so sorry to interrupt, but like had you always thought that eventually I do want to do something on my own? Or was this
Mhm.
something that was in the more recent years leading up to you
No,
leaving?
I'm an entrepreneur at heart,
Really?
and I've always had something else going as well as my full-time job. So I led workshops for people that were laid off
Yeah.
for years. I did that on my own. I took vacation time, and they were 2-day workshops where we gave individuals assessments, taught them interview skills, resume writing, and then really prepared them for the
Yeah.
rejoining the workforce. That actually was the best job I ever had in the way that
Really?
you start with a group that are extremely despondent. They've been laid off. They thought they had their job forever. And then, you know, they're finding themselves without that job, without that identity.
Yep.
So I worked with a partner and I led these 2-day workshops. And by the end of the second day, people's attitude was changed. They had tools they could use. And so that was a great little side hustle that I did for probably actually 10 years. I
Oh,
started that in
really?
graduate school. The
Uh,
University of Missouri offered that. And then I was able to do it on a contract basis. So
there's a
I did
lesson
that,
in
and I've
there
also worked
for
in adoption. I worked as a adoption social worker, as a side hustle because I have a background in, counseling psych with a master's in counseling psych and a bachelor's in social work.
so there's a lesson in there around a lot of whatever your role may be, your salaried role that you're getting paid for, there is leaning into and listening to what excites you that might not be part of your paid job,
Mhm,
but you went fully and you were doing something on the side, so very clearly like what lit you up. I think so a lot of people it's not even as much like they don't spend as much time, but there's something throughout their career through line that has been like that always that was the best feeling when I did that. And it's like
mhm,
thinking back to that of like what was that? And so I love that, and you saying too that you kind of always been entrepreneurial. I feel like all of us have that in some of us lose it a little bit, we don't
mhm,
realize it, but just like that creativity, that desire to kind of do what you want and have a little bit more autonomy and ownership over what you're doing, and so,
mhm.
kudos to you. That's great.
Yeah, and while
So
you're doing that,
yeah,
you're also building skills in another area, which I've
yeah,
always been one to think about, "What can I take from this job?" I'm giving a lot, but what can I take
yeah.
that I can use if I'm no longer working here?
So good. So you're essentially what you were teaching the students also is like lessons for yourself too as you're taking like build your career, think about what you can get in each of your jobs, set yourself up for
Mhm,
success for the next time, like all of those are like the internal voice for yourself too of like what you should be
mhm,
doing.
yeah,
So okay, so you had mentioned that people just kind of assumed that you were gonna just lean into hobbies and
mhm,
do not move on to something else.
mhm.
What did you know you wanted to do something else, or did you take a little bit of time in between leaving and then starting your consulting firm?
I did take a little bit of time, but it wasn't really a relaxing time. It was just reevaluating
Yeah.
and making some contacts. Fortunately, I had a strong contact at a major university near our small college, and I had worked with that director of services there
Yep.
because he had let our students go to their career fair, and he knew that I ran a pretty good shop. And so he was very generous when I retired or when I left was
Yeah.
the college.
Yeah.
I contacted him and he said, "Oh, we could use you for giving an etiquette dinner. We could use you for this, for that." So I reached out after I left to the contacts that I had. Now, one thing that, happens in jobs and especially at universities is people leave, move on. So since then, that contact has left and I'm having to redevelop those
Yeah.
contacts.
Yeah. Yeah. But the flip side, and I don't know if you've seen this come to fruition, is that they leave and go somewhere else. So then potentially,
Hmm.
sometimes that
Yeah.
plays in the positive side, so
Uh,
it expands your networking. I
mhm,
want to talk about that a little bit too, because when you reached out to this gentleman, did you reach out with the intent like, these are the services that I want to do? I'm going to see if he has, or was it like, let me just see what their needs are and just see like how did that, what thought
mhm.
process? Talk me through that.
I was intentional when I
Yeah.
reached out to him. I said, I can offer these services. And I had a a rough kind of brochure developed or, flyer that I shared with him. And actually, he put me in touch with the student organization that organized those events, but he recommended me to them. So that was an easy connection there that he had made on my behalf.
That's great. How did you go about thinking about pricing? Was that it, like going from salaried position to then pricing
Uh-huh.
your services? A lot of times that for me and many I talk to is there's a value. There's like kind of a personal value in that, and that can
Mhm,
be a huge hindrance. Did that come up for
mhm.
you at all?
Oh, yes. What I did was I reached out to those that ran the similar business, etiquette consultants. I called them on the phone. I didn't call anybody local. Well, actually, there aren't many people local to
Yeah.
me right here, but the large cities 200 plus miles away, there's etiquette consultants. Didn't call them. I called people that were out of this area completely. South Carolina, no, it was Seattle,
Yeah.
and talked to them and asked them about the range that they charge. I didn't ask specifically what they
So
charge, but the
good.
range. And I've
Yeah.
had, a lot of training in helping people get jobs and doing informational interviews
Yes.
and all that kind of thing. So I'm pretty comfortable with asking and interviewing people about what they do, and they told me the range, and I felt that was a little high for
Mm.
mid-Missouri where I'm
Yeah.
located, so I lowered that, um, and I have, prices now. I think they're still a little low,
Yeah.
but, you have to go with your market.
I
Mhm.
I love that. So if I were to retrace maybe the first 3 steps in your journey and telling someone else is one, and I don't say this lightly at all, is knowing what you enjoy and kind of the services you
Mhm.
wanna offer. That is a huge project, and I wanna dig into that a little bit with you, but
Yeah.
step 1 is knowing kind of an idea of what you wanna offer. 2 is doing some research around the pricing, which I love that. Just,
Mhm.
find similar people and there's websites, there's
Mhm.
pricing out there all the time now too, and adjust based on location, based on, the market that you're going after, whatever it may be.
Right.
3, then look at your existing network. Your
Mhm.
existing network, especially if you're coming from a W-2 job, in my mind, where you've worked there for 10, 20 plus years,
Yes.
know a lot of people, and you kind of underestimate your existing network that might benefit from your
Uh-huh.
services.
Yes,
Is that
yes,
correct?
that's right, and then also when you contact the people,
Yeah.
um, be supportive of them, and then also afterwards send a thank you note, refer people to them if it's appropriate, but build those bridges with them.
Yeah, it's not just like I think that's been a big shift for me going out on my own because I never had to sell. Like my background's in finance and strategy. Like I didn't have to
Mhm.
do any of that. And especially when you're a service based, so you're kind of selling yourself. It
Yeah.
mixes all this stuff. But two things have through my journey that has been a mindset shift is one, you really are offering help to others. Like
Mhm.
others need if you find the right person, they really do need what you are, and so by not offering it, you're kind of doing them a disservice because they need whatever you're offering. And the second thing is that it's not a cold pitch. It's really a relationship developing, like you said too. So it's following up, it's building the relationships, it's just understanding what people need and
Mhm.
if they know anyone that could benefit from your services. So
Mhm.
it just always felt kind of cold to me, but that was my own blockage, I think, until I really just flipped that switch in my own
Yeah,
mind.
I have that same issue. I'm not used to selling either.
No.
I developed programs within a parameter, and now I really love developing the programs I'm offering, but then pitching them and, telling people about them and how they could benefit them, that is more of a challenge to me.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that really helps when you're promoting yourself, your programs, is looking at how you're different. Because
Mm.
with me, I have a master's in counseling psychology. I have worked with career development. I can tailor these programs, and I gave one last night to the students in the audience or the individuals who come and talk some about social anxiousness,
Yeah.
social anxiety. I can delve into that a little more. So that's something that I offer that a lot of the typical etiquette consultants can't.
I love that. I love that. I want to dig into a little bit more around your expertise too now. So maybe let's start with the strengths that you're
Mhm.
certified in.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about that? Because I think that goes back to just figuring out what you're good at and what you like. Those two things are very unique and have to go together. And just one other thing around that is I think a lot of times we minimize because it's one, easy for us, that it's a strength of ours. And two, because it's not the specific job description that we've been doing or that we would write on our
Mhm,
resume, but we are doing it just because that's what we're leaning into or we're helping others or whatever. So you kind of don't think about the problems or the stuff that you've been doing that isn't just kind of the bullet point on your resume. So
mhm.
talk a little bit about kind of this
Yeah.
what you do and the strengths that you've helped people
Okay.
uncover.
Well, Gallup is used by the majority of Fortune 500 companies. And so it's really well known, well respected, research based. Over 35 million people have taken it around the world. So right there, it's got a great foundation, great reputation. And the thing that I especially like about Strengths is that it doesn't tell you what you should do career wise. It talks about how you can use your strengths to leverage your influence in that position. So, for example, I gave a workshop to a Chamber of Commerce leadership group, and there were two realtors in there, and they both were very successful, but they had opposite strengths. One of them was more analytical,
Yep.
more context, the other was high on relationship. And so it's not that you look at somebody that's successful in finance or real estate and say, I want to be just like them and
Yeah.
try to do everything they do. That doesn't work with strengths. You use your strengths to be the best in that position. So, that's the great thing. I mean, my number one strength is input. I love to
Mhm.
get information. I love to share information. I love to do research about different topics before I talk. And then another one of my strengths is connectedness.
Mm.
So that fits in with trying to, talking to people about my business and
Yep.
helping them connect, which is what my goal is in the workshops, is building relationships with people either at the table or at a mix and mingle session.
Yeah. It's kinda it can be fun if you allow it to be, uncovering your strengths or really understanding what they are,
Mhm.
and then really thinking about what you like. Because your strengths, to your point, don't need to be tied to the industry you've worked in or even the functional expertise. It is really about it's sort of like a values aligned type of thing is
Yes.
like what are you naturally good at from a characteristic
Mhm.
standpoint and then figuring out what you like and it can be a puzzle of like where can I apply that, like
Mhm.
I've kind of always been in we use it for an example of higher education. I was like my last job was in the media industry in a specific thing, but if
Yeah.
you think about the especially for someone who either feels burned out or has just lost their job in this
Mhm.
environment, you can kind of feel like constricted and like I gotta find the next thing and what is the very
Mhm.
similar thing and I do. But when you think about it that way, what are my strengths and what do I like doing? It kind of opens up this world of a different way of thinking of like there is a
Mhm.
lot of opportunities if I kind of flip it, I look
Yeah.
at the puzzle, you flip it
Yeah.
like 90 degrees or 180 degrees, but it can be overwhelming. I want to acknowledge for some because you've never thought about it that way.
Well, and if the supervisors and the teams look at their team members' strengths and say, oh, this person is a learner,
Yeah.
well, we've got a project going on that we need to get some background on. And she would be great at
Yeah.
doing some research.
Yeah.
So if people realize their strengths within the context of their work,
Hmm.
then sometimes they can shift it and do more that utilizes their strengths. And then they get more satisfaction and more engagement with their job, which is really needed in this country. It's something like only 60% of employees are engaged in their job. The figure is around 60%. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what exactly
Yeah.
it is, but it's pretty low. So if
Yeah.
people feel engaged and get the satisfaction, they're more likely to stay.
I
And
totally agree.
so when I give a workshop on strengths, which I did last summer to a group of bankers,
Yeah.
they learned a lot about each other. And we not only talk about how they use their strengths, we also talk a little bit about some of the deeper the valleys, involved. If somebody is highly analytical or they're got a lot of ideation, that sometimes that can be something that the group has to deal with. So we
Yeah.
talk about their strengths as well as challenges that they may have or present to the group. Anyway, it's really satisfying to see people make these connections and
Yeah.
appreciate each other.
Yeah. 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 You see a different aspect of somebody, even if they're, I mean, you say that too, someone's not like you, but you realize the strength that they do bring to the team, that you
Mhm.
might not have seen before.
Yeah.
So, um, I love that. And I want to talk a little bit too about, so in terms of like a different aspect of what I'm seeing a lot now, but one of your strengths and things that you enjoy is around the networking and the etiquette aspect. So a lot of people I work with are leaving their corporate jobs and want to start their own thing. So certainly there's a need around networking. But one of my recent, I don't want to say passions, but interests in talking about
Mhm.
is the desire or the need for people to understand how to monetize their skill sets, even if it's within their W 2 job. Because I think a lot of people get blocked in
Mm.
this. I just had a conversation with a former coworker, and the industry I was in is going through a bunch of layoffs. And you have this
Mm.
sort of a false sense of security around that I
Mhm.
have a job and I'm safe. And
Yeah.
we've seen that, especially through 2025, that's and COVID. I mean, forget it. We
Mhm.
can go back however many years.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the case. And so, even if you have no intention of going out on your own or doing your own thing or even on the side, understanding the value you bring, meeting people, being able to articulate it, build those relationships, wherever that may lead is always important, even if you're going to stay in your current job or your current company. And so, with that said, can you talk a little like what about the person that's just in their job that is like, I've been here for 5, 10 years, 30 years. What are some things you would tell them? I want to talk about networking and just like why it's important to put yourself out there. And even if you're uncomfortable, like what are some steps that you could sort of start taking?
I think that's a great area to talk about because I personally did that for years. I built a program that protected some things that I valued. I I am a learner. I love to learn. And for my program, I charged sometimes when other schools our size didn't charge for some
Mm,
services. Now, everything went into our budget from what I charged in, and that's not always possible. At some institutions, they'll take the money you earn. But
yeah.
I protected the ability for me and my staff to get certifications that would be valuable out in the world. I'm a certified resume writer, I'm Gallup certified, I'm, etiquette consultant. Those things I didn't pay for myself. I worked it so that the career fair that we had, the money went into a fund in my budget, and that paid for our workers, my staff. It was a small staff, just 2 people under me and about 6 student assistants, but that
And so
money was used for our professional development.
And so you saw the benefit and the long-term need to
Yes.
continue to kind of educate yourself, expand your skill sets. So besides getting that education, were you then articulating that was that just more for your own if you ever left, or were you also then telling, your higher ups like, hey, I have, like so that they knew that you were expanding your own education and certification? How did that kind of play out?
Well, let's just say that because I was there for as long as I was, and people basically thought I ran a great program and they let me do what I did, nobody ever questioned it. And I didn't talk a lot about that. I mean, they knew that I thought professional development was important, but I didn't talk a lot about
Yeah.
all the benefits because I knew the benefits for my staff and for me, and because it was the way that I established things in the beginning when I first started working there, it just became a tradition, whereas other departments might not have been able to control their budget like I was. And this was a small budget, but it was a budget that, I made sure went to our staff for
Yeah.
professional development and for different tools we needed, the software for different programs, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I would just recommend people be judicious in their job and try to, use their funds and their maybe their influence in making their department and where they're working, stand out. I mean, that was
Yeah.
something also that the college valued was the kind of education that people were providing
Yeah,
and the fact that our staff was qualified. So, work that in your favor.
I absolutely agree. What about, did you or would you recommend to others who are doing this now to expand beyond their current uh, organization, like networking
Oh, yeah.
events or just yeah, what?
Mhm. Definitely. And another thing I did was because I wanted to network and I wanted to go to different conferences and learn things, is I applied for a lot of scholarships offered through the associations, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, NACE. It's the largest
Hmm.
organization for employers and career services professionals. I received, I think, 3 different times. I got the whole conference, which was that time $850. It's probably over 1,000 now. That was paid for, and then I could go to my dean and say, "I've gotten a scholarship. I'd like to have the funds to travel."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's great. And so when you went to these conferences too, it was both about education, meeting others, kind of expanding. Yeah,
And opportunities to network there and to build, your expertise up. And so that was and I went into a magazine. I was featured in the NACE magazine, the journal. They did that, and then there was a webinar from my more regional association. So those things spin off and
yeah,
they give you a great reputation that you can use when you go out on your own or you work with another company. So I just really encourage people to take advantage in a positive way of your present environment,
yeah.
start
I
building
love
those
that.
bridges, go to events, network, and then if the layoff happens, then you've got this background, these
Yeah.
tools, these resources that you can rely on to help you.
So how long now? How many years has it been since you left your job and
It was
you've been on your own?
2020. It was 2020,
2020,
so
you
it's
said.
been
That's right.
5
So
years. Mhm.
5 years. So tell me now, looking back, what's been some of the biggest learnings for you or things that unexpectedly going out on your own that maybe you learned or you wouldn't have expected?
Well, the whole pitching yourself, that's something that I never had to do before.
Yeah.
So that's been, a lesson, and I think that that's something that you learn as you go how to do that more,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that I didn't realize was going to be such a part of the job. I love to develop programs, approaches, the materials. I
Yeah.
like to have the bones really strong of my organization, but then as far as telling people
I
about
know.
it and,
But
doing these more awkward things for me, that's
putting
more
yourself out there.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you miss about being in more of a traditional environment?
Besides the paycheck.
Yeah. Besides the consistent paycheck. I know exactly.
I would say the students that I worked
Yeah.
with, I had, student assistants who were terrific, and so I loved developing them and seeing
Yeah.
them go off and do great things, and so that's one thing, although for another part of my life, I've been hiring students to help me with a conservation program I have going at the little acreage we live on. So recently, I was on the campus of the University of Missouri hiring students from the forestry, natural
I love
resources
that. So you
department.
just
It
it
was
goes
it
back
was
to your
fun.
interests and how can I maybe interject it in a different aspect of my life or a
Yeah,
different
right.
way?
So
Like that
instead of running the career
yeah.
program like I did, I became an employer, and I actually did this 2 years ago. I hired an intern through the University of Missouri to help me get my website off the ground.
I love that.
So I've taken that skill. I knew that I could hire somebody like I worked with the employers. I could be the employer.
Yeah.
So I hired 6 students through the University of Missouri to help me with this conservation project.
I love that. I think that just goes I've said this before, but, you can't always see the path where it's leading you until you look back and you say, "Of course," like, that
Mhm.
makes sense that using working with students in this way, and this is what I have, and so I always just say it's following the breadcrumbs of what your gut is telling you, where your happiness is leading you, and then you'll see what the next door opens up. So it's just kinda you gotta have the
Yeah.
bravery, I guess it is, to just take that step and say, "Okay, what's that next step?" So,
Hmm.
I love you sharing your story with others because I think it's very I think a lot of others will see themselves in that too. You kind of do something for a while and that's kind of your identity and then you're ready for the next thing. And that doesn't mean you were super unhappy or that it's time for the next phase and you can get exciting and see where that might lead you. So thank you for sharing that. What if people want to work with you? Where can they find you and what are some of the services you're offering?
I have a website that people can log on and learn about the different areas. I have under there, I have the etiquette dinners, the networking sessions, scallop strengths. I'm also an agilities coach, which means that you do a drawing. I approach it from an aspect of artistically putting where people are and then where they want to go with their next project. So that's through agilities. It's also a career assessment is part of it as well. So I can maintain my interest in helping people career wise
Yeah,
with the agilities assessment. I'm also a certified resume writer, can help individuals with their, putting together a resume that reflects them and what the next step they want to take, their goals.
I love that. Very like holistically, someone's ready for a change, or you work for an organization that you need somebody that can help others. It's just you kind of have a holistic toolkit
Mhm,
to help others kind of figure out what that is and prepare themselves for the next
mhm.
phase, transition, whatever
That's
it may
right.
be.
And a lot of it is about making connections because that's what really the etiquette or the networking is. It's about respecting others, making connections, building those relationships. And with the Gallup Strengths Coaching, it's the same thing. It's learning the strengths, maximizing them, and then connecting with others and appreciating others. So, yeah, I really enjoy developing people, and I think that's the theme that goes along with my website.
I
So,
love
Greater
that.
Visions Consulting is the name of it. And I have to tell you, when I created that name,
Yeah.
I asked people in my life that were in the age of 30s, 40s. I formed my own little focus group and I had about 40 different names.
Yeah.
And some of them I thought, yeah, maybe that's a little corny. I'm not sure. And they picked out the Greater Visions. It was a unanimous vote. So if
I love
anybody's
that.
looking for coming up with their name, ask
Yes.
people that you want to appeal to.
It is interesting. I love that's great. I love that tidbit because a lot of things can stop us, which is not the important thing, but exactly what should I call it? Or should I create an LLC? Or what should my
Mhm.
website colors be? And you can spend time thinking that you're doing a lot because you're spending time on that, but that's not actually what's going to make the change. And actually, it's not even going to be what you're really going to learn from. So
Mhm.
I love that. You kind of take that, you go directly to the people that you want to sell to and get that.
Yeah.
And it's a great name, by the way. So they picked a great one. So I will put that all in the show notes. I'll also link to your LinkedIn. I know you're on there too if anyone wants to
Yeah.
connect with you. And I'll put your website on there. So anyone who's interested can find you there.
Yes, I'd be very happy to talk to people, to have them reach out to me, to share any information I can with them, to support them in their role,
I
because I
love that.
really think this is important
Yeah.
that people follow their passions and help others and build those connections.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important. And I know a lot of people are feeling that right now. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing some of your advice and tidbits. And like I said, we'll put all this in the show notes. So anyone who's feeling like they need, just someone to talk to.
Mhm.
Meg, you're their girl.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Meg. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I appreciate being on here and best wishes to you as
Thank
you
you.
merge forward. Okay.
So much to learn. I'm learning from every podcast interview. This
I
is why
bet
I'm doing this. So.
bet you are. Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Scale with Clarity. If it sparked something for you and you're wondering what your next step might look like outside of corporate, I created a free tool called the Clarity Compass. It's designed to help you uncover your strengths and start mapping what an aligned business could look like. You can download it at the link in the show notes. And if you'd like more personalized support, I also offer one-on-one coaching to help you design and build a solopreneur path that fits your life. And until next time, thanks so much for listening. Be sure to tune back in for more stories and conversations that I hope inspire and guide you on your own journey.